organized, coming back to your original question, 8 other ways or principles, what I call essentials for vitality.
Right.
So by the way, when I started doing the work, I did the work. I
Right.
didn't know the neuroscience yet.
Right.
And then I started actually reading your research that was published wherever I read it. I don't remember right now, but I remember the research. And I remember just the profound delight and joy I had, because I
Right.
thought, oh, they're figuring this out.
Right,
You know,
right,
I know
right,
it in
right.
practice, but it was
Right.
very helpful to me, because then
Right.
it empowered me to intentionally go more. So doing movement with attention is powerful, but knowing that it's powerful, then we can use it
Right,
better.
right.
And we attend, like you said, to our feelings, to our thoughts, to our likes, our dislikes, our belief systems. It's
Right.
all sort of very, very important. So the next one was what I call the learning switch, and that I really saw both in adults and children. And first I became aware with actually the very first child, disabled child that was brought to me. She was 2 years old with cerebral palsy, and she had hardly any movement. She was very, very spastic, but what most caught my attention, she seemed like dead. She seemed like she was far, far behind her eyes. It was like she's given up. She
Right.
wasn't there. And after the very first session I gave her, all of a sudden it's like the lights turned on behind the eyes.
Right.
And I realized that when that happens, almost anything I did with her, and then consequently with other people,
Right.
made a difference.
Right.
Whereas
But before not.
before, it doesn't matter what you do with them, nothing
Right.
happens.
Right.
That's what I call the learning switch.
Right.
It's like the brain can be in a learning mode or in a non-learning mode. It's
Right.
like a different organization of the whole system, a different
Right.
anticipation of the whole system. It becomes like an information, not just absorbing. My thinking is that the brain actually generates information, gets
Right.
stimulation, but it's either going to turn into information or it's not.
Right. I think your book does a really nice job of integrating these sort of empirical principles that have come from your practice, and which you've evolved in a practical way to a high degree through this, and also with more and more strongly integrated with the science,
Exactly.
which is in these, of course, the truth has to be one. You know, when
Yes.
these two are merging. I think that almost anybody would find your book. Anybody interested in issues of rehabilitation would find your book both informative and inspiring. And there are many really nice examples of you turning on this switch, and more than that, of defining the optimal conditions or the principles that really help a person or help a person as a therapist to engage a individual in need or in need of help to make real progress. So I strongly encourage people to read this book, to look at this book as a source. Maybe that can contribute to a significant change in their approach to life and their approach to maybe their approach to the clinical practice of a therapist, maybe their approach to their own rehabilitation if they're in need of help.
Absolutely, and I'd like to talk if there's time for another one or two principles more, because I see them applicable in everyday life too.
Right.
So for instance, and some of them are very counterintuitive. So for instance, one is what I call subtlety. That's reducing the force. So working with people, I work with athletes and high-performing musicians, people who really do more than most of us try to even do in
Right.
our life. And the attempt usually is to get better by trying harder and more
Right,
often,
right.
longer, and
Right.
and of
right,
course, and
right.
you know those principles a lot better than me.
Right.
What it does, it drives the existing patterns deeper and deeper,
Right.
and it reduces the
It's
likelihood.
a kind of trap, really.
Yes, it reduces the likelihood of something new to occur that will improve the performance.
Right.
And by reducing the force, the literal force and effort that we do with our muscles, we increase the sensitivity, the ability of the brain to perceive differences, which is the basic unit of information
Right.
it can work with.
Right.
So I've taken sometimes martial artists on very high level, or dancers, principal dancers, like once in the Joffrey Ballet, a dancer that couldn't lift her leg one of her legs above a certain height her whole career, and in 5 minutes I got her to get through it, and just by giving her the opportunity to feel what it'll take to do it.
Right.
So it's true for people who do their yoga or take walks or make coffee in the morning,
Right.
but it's also true to how you talk to your
Right.
child. People very often try to get their child to do
Right.
something different by using very forceful
Right.
emotional and mental approaches.
Right.
Another one, which I know is something you've built a whole marvelous system for children to help children with, with learning issues, is slow.
Right.
I mean, very often I found out that all I had to do with a person is
Right.
get them to slow, then a little slower, then a little slower, and
Right.
then they could do it.
Right.
And then once
Right.
they could do it also faster
Right.
and faster
Right.
and
And
faster.
very
Would you like
strong
to speak
support
to that a little bit?
Very strong support in the neuroscience literature about this, the brain adjusting its time constants, you could say, and oftentimes it can't operate at speed, but it can operate as long as the sequencing of information is occurring at a relatively slow rate. And of course, that's the beginning. Performing the behavior appropriately in appropriate sequence control at a slow rate is the beginning of ultimately getting back to a high rate, to normal performance levels.
Exactly.
I think that anyone who reads this book is going to probably discover things about themselves, and maybe have a breakout or two in their own life, and certainly that possibility will arise in your thoughts as you read this book, and it could have a significant impact on your life going forward. So I strongly recommend that you read it, and for the fun of it and for your own health and well-being. Move into life. Thank you, Anat.
Thank you so much, Dr. Merzenich.